Hi, and welcome back to a history of saps, blackjacks, and slungshots. So, we're firmly in the 20th century now. I've got to admit my collection of antiques here is not keeping up with the narrative, so there's some I need, and then I'll have to go back in time, if you will. But anyway, we'll keep following along. So we're basically in the early 20th century now, and that's why I call this guy here just the old school blackjack. This is probably a 20th century sap. I'm fairly certain of that, but there's no reason to rule out entirely the 19th. But anyway, what we've got here is a blackjack, hence the name. So it's a, as I classify them, a modern blackjack, meaning the coil spring shaft. And you can see that. But you can also see how the striking head kind of bulges out, right? And it's that paddle shape, just like the Buckheimer 211 that we saw, which, the outline of which goes all the way back to the Civil War at least. But this one's a little bit different. This one's small, compact, but this thing got carried around for sure and knocked up against plenty of objects and probably some heads. This one here looks like it's as well worn as any in my collection, and it also has a really interesting retention system that we'll talk about. So I love the leather on this guy, if leather's even the right word, because I say that because I think this is pigskin after looking at it under like real close magnification. But I love the color, I love that shiny brown. Of course, as you know, most saps and jacks are black. But I think it's got a great look, just the color and the wear. So you can see the overall shape, right? Nothing too surprising. If you look at the striking head there, especially in some parts, you'll see it's kind of misshapen, and I imagine that's from excessive use there, kind of at the bottom. Can you see a little bit? And you can see the seams where they come together, and right there's a good view. Notice it's got that classic kind of 3/4 coverage on the seam that we talked about in past models. So once again, there it is. And here's the shaft. Looks like it got handled plenty, but part of the reason it looks so worn is also because of that loop that we're going to see in action in a second. Now, like we've talked about before, saps and jacks are kind of artisan weapons or artisanal weapons, especially back in the day, so no two are exactly alike, and this one here has a pretty high degree of flexibility, so you wouldn't use this to jab at all, even though it's very similar in shape and size and configuration to, say, the convoy blackjack that we covered, and that one you could and would, in fact. Not this one here. That wouldn't get you very far at all, as you'll see in a second when I flex the handle. So this would give you more pop in your swing, but just pretty much negate any kind of a jabbing with the front. And as you recall, we can jab with the bottom as well, which with some is absolutely vicious because that little metal ring. But this one here is almost has a miniature version on the butt end of what it has on the striking head. So you could strike kind of a hammer fist blow. There's that flexibility. But you can see how it would take away the lethality and the laceration, because there it is, right? It's just sewed up nice and round and leather. So it'd still hurt, but not be as effective, if you want to use that word, as the convoy blackjack. And realistically, from a martial arts perspective, I mean, I think very few people use them that way at all. It might not have even occurred to anyone, basically, back in the day. The only time I've ever seen it mentioned was in a police martial arts impact weapon specific book. So the guy really knew his stuff. I got to talk to him, by the way, online. And from back in the 70s, and like police carrying them around every single day. At some point, you strike with every possible angle. And they did, in fact, learn that the little metal ring right here at the bottom, when present, could cause some serious cuts. So here's the retention system. And as you can imagine, you run your hand through the loop, and there you go. What makes this one a little bit different is you'll notice that sleeve, right? See the sleeve that holds it in place, and actually you can see the details of the construction a little bit as well, which I think is kind of cool. But that sleeve can spin in place. So not only can it slide up and down the weapon, but it can spin around in either direction. Some of you who are crazy enough to follow along with this little project will remember then that helps protect the user from getting put in a painful wrist bind, should the weapon be grasped and kind of twisted away from you. So this thing, it's pretty old, and it doesn't spin in place very easily, but that is the idea. And you can see how this is kind of the coolest thing about the retention system, and the most unique feature about this guy here, this jack, is that you can kind of store it like that, and maybe some people just like to carry and hold it that way. So it's kind of a cool look. You don't see that very often, but you do on some models. And that is about it for this one. This is the old school soft-loaded jack. Thank you.